top 25 for your Jackets for the first time in 9 years. Georgia Tech is back where they belong, number 23 in the AP poll. They will take that rank into Central New York this Saturday for the ACC road opener against Syracuse at the JMA Wireless Dome, looking to validate Georgia Tech's first ranking since September of 2015. Tommy's Leather Saturday in Central New York at noon. And we'll, of course, be on the air 2 hours before with the Ramblin' Wreck kickoff show. A lot to discuss, including that 35-12 win over Georgia State in the home opener at Bobby Dodd Stadium at Hyundai Field that elevated Tech to its first 2-0 start since 2016. My name is Andy Demetra. Great to have you along tonight on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. We are live once again from New Around Brewing Company here at 550 Somerset Terrace Northeast on the east side Beltline of Atlanta, where we will be all season long on the Brent Key Coaches Show. And that nod of agreement comes from the man to my left. Happy to be back here at New Around Brewing in front of your fans. Coach Key, good to talk to you. How are you?
Doing good. How's it going?
Doing well. I talked with Malik Rutherford yesterday. He's a pregame guest on the broadcast this Saturday, asking him about the acknowledgement of being number 23, and he was delightfully unimpressed. He said, you know what, we expected us to be here. So it's not as though you guys stopped practice to throw a pizza party to celebrate you being in the top 25. It is a great acknowledgement of what you guys have done through 2 games, but I know it didn't change your team's approach or its attitude. What has been the message to the team entering this week, and perhaps so that you can stay true to yourself and be the kind of team you want to be on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, we have a job to do. I mean, our job is to prepare the best we possibly can and put a plan in place to be able to go up and execute and play with toughness, play with discipline on Saturday like we do every week. I mean, there's certain things that come along with winning. They become the norm, and it's a new norm that people have to understand. And, but there's nothing external that we can allow to control who we are. And anytime you have an event or a circumstance or something like that, somebody says something, all right, if you listen to that, you're just letting them control your future. And right now, all of our goals are in front of us, and we're the only ones that can control that.
And the next challenge is to knock off that first road win against the Syracuse team that opened the Fran Brown era last Saturday with a win at home. You know the JMA Wireless Dome will be fired up. It'll be a hostile atmosphere, different than what was essentially a neutral site game in Dublin. And you also talked with your team this week about making sure that you create your own energy on that sideline Saturday.
Yeah, we have to. Energy comes from 2 places, 1 of 2 places. It's either internal or it's external. You either create your own energy, right? Or you grasp it from somewhere else. And, it's one thing to have a home game and have your fans and, the students who were absolutely outstanding last week at our game at home. You can feed off of that. But when you go on the road, you can't grasp that energy from somewhere else, because if you do, again, you're letting someone else, an external factor, control your own mindset.
Being a tech grad, I thought you'd say there are 2 types of energy: kinetic energy and potential energy.
You know the big words. You're the word guy.
You told me you didn't do too great in chemistry.
I'm a numbers guy. All right, I'm good with numbers. You're good with words. Put us together. I mean, we could ace the SAT.
Oh, put us together. We'd be way over 1,600. Very business-like win versus Georgia State, 35-12. I know it was a bit slower of a start than Tech fans may have anticipated, but overall, your assessment of what you saw from your guys against the Panthers?
Yeah, first off, the flow of the game in the first 2 games has been a little bit different than accustomed to. Where we've got we had 4 drives in the first half, 4 offensive drives in each of the first 2 games. So just the natural flow of the game was a little bit different. They were playing, both teams we played previously were playing a little bit more ball control offense. So we've got to make the most of those possessions. And we started off defense, let the guys drive down the field, and then we were able to get a big stop right on the goal line. Then we moved it off the goal line. We weren't able to execute and finish the drive, but we were able to flip the field position, and we got the ball down in there tight, and then Zeke was able to come up with a big turnover there, so we were able to capitalize on it. So, we've got to make the most of every possession we have.
Now, somebody who made the most of every reception he had was Malik Rutherford. 7 catches, 131 yards. both career highs for the redshirt junior. What has he done this early season to make himself such a weapon? 2 games, 11 catches.
Yeah, he practices. He practices hard. He practices. I mean, he will not come out of a play at practice. He loves playing the game. His energy is infectious among everybody. If there's ever any time you're feeling down or someone's not quite at 100%, just watch Malik. And he's the way he goes about every practice just shows his true love of the game. And very, very deserving of what he was able to do last Saturday night.
I know you're fond of the slogan, big people beat up small people, but seeing some of Malik Rutherford's blocks on those screen passes and pop passes, he's not afraid to knock a DB back either.
Big people do beat up small people. I'm taking Malik in my foxhole any day of the week.
Chase Lane told me he plays like he's 6'2 or 6'3, and he cast a big shadow in that secondary on Saturday. Let's go back to those first-half goal line stands versus Georgia State. They marched downfield on the opening possession, had a first and goal from the 1, but you held them out of the end zone, had another drive where they were first and goal from about the 3 in the second quarter, and you held them to a field goal. Obviously, you'd like for your defense not to be pressed back in those types of situations, but what did you guys do well to execute in those goal line situations?
Yeah, the field gets tighter. There's less real estate north and south, but there is east and west. We've got to play better in the open field. But I was proud of the way we played in our situational ball, and that's where games are truly won and lost. I mean, you look back at some of the there's been some really good teams in the National Football League. I mean, the Patriots come to mind that a few years ago were normal down football. Defensively they were ranked near the bottom of the league, and then every situational red zone, short yardage, goal line, third downs they were at the top of the league, and that really shows how important those things are. Now that's not where we want to be, the bottom of the league by any means, in the middle of the field. But when it shrinks, it really puts a lot more of the emphasis on the defensive line, the linebackers in the run game, and doesn't allow people to be able to capitalize on some of the things that they did. So we got to continue to improve. We're a work in progress. You hear me say it all the time that you're either getting better or worse in every phase. So our expectation is to be able to improve this week.
Did get a career-high 13 tackles from Kyle Eford. Kyle also had an interception, but it was wiped out by a penalty. I know maybe that put a damper on the overall effort Saturday. The holding penalties in particular, I'm not going to ask you to assess the validity of some of those calls, but how were some of those procedural and offensive penalties addressed this week?
Well, look, there's a certain way we teach blocking, right? We are not changing how we teach blocking, right? We're going to block, we're going to finish, we're going to block through the echo of the whistle. Bottom line, right? That's not going to change. If certain people that are in charge of our game see it a different way, then we will be very cordial, and we will look at it on Sunday. Is that good?
Very diplomatic.
Yeah, we're not changing the way
like
we play.
A true offensive line.
We're not changing the way we play. All right,
no.
we work very hard to develop a certain standard in our program of how we block and do those things.
And certainly paved the way for another productive day on the ground. Another rushing touchdown from Jamal Haynes. Haynes King finally got in the end zone. He was able to punch it in on a 4th down. And then Eric Singleton on a reverse, his first career rushing touchdown. We are just getting underway. We are live tonight once again at New Realm Brewing Company here on the east side Beltline of Atlanta. It is the Brent Key Coaches Show, driven by Hyundai on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. Marvelous Dome to take on the 1-0 Syracuse Orange. First time Georgia Tech will play at Syracuse with fans. They played up there in 2020, but seats were empty because New York State attendance rules during the pandemic, so it'll be quite a loud atmosphere inside the JMA Wireless Dome, but one I know the Yellow Jackets will be ready for. And 12 o'clock, toe meets leather. He's Brent Key. I'm Andy Demetra. We do sometimes like to hop in the time machine. Your first game as a GA at Georgia Tech, so this would technically be the first game you were ever involved in as a coach, was against Syracuse. 2001 kickoff classic at the Meadowlands. I'm sure that had to be a whirlwind, but do you have any recollections of that game itself?
Were you at that game?
I was not. I can tell I was at the student radio station.
At what school?
Chopping up highlights.
What school?
I'd rather not say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a Tech grad.
Yeah, and I'll be wearing Tech colors on
There
Saturday.
that's
That'll
all
tell
I
you
wanted
all
to
you
hear.
need to
That's
know.
all I
There
wanted
you
to
go.
hear, my man. So just that it was my first year as a GA. We went up there. Actually went a day early, and Coach O'Leary wanted to make sure we saw the city. I have a picture at my house, and I believe was the game on August 31st, September 1st?
It was, I want to say August 26th, because prior to the game in Dublin, that was the earliest game ever in Georgia Tech history.
So it was, but I have a picture of me and several people out on a ferry tour in the Hudson River with the Twin Towers behind us. And then, less than 2 weeks later, we all know what happened. So, to be up there right before that, it'll stick in my memory for a long time. I mean, then Dwight Freeney was on the team, and they were a good football team. They've always been a tough physical team, and I think that's what Fran is trying to bring back, and it definitely shows up on tape.
Yeah, trying to get back to their Northeast roots. Were you on the field? Were you up in the booth for that game as a GA?
Yeah, I was in the booth.
Okay.
I remember the night before, isn't there like a racetrack right next to the old Meadowlands?
I think so, yeah.
We had a dinner, the team dinner, with both teams was in there. It was a big deal, to go play in the Kickoff Classic back then.
When you said that there was a racetrack, I thought you were going to say George O'Leary was making you clean stalls as part of your initiation as a GA.
We won't go there.
Well, George O'Leary was an assistant at Syracuse for about 7 years, and prior to that, he was a head coach at one of the nearby high schools in Syracuse, and was also, in addition to coaching the football team, a driver's ed instructor. I can only imagine what it would have been like to have George O'Leary as your driver's ed instructor.
Well, as a GA for him, right, you basically got the same experience. All right, whether you're driving him, in recruiting, you're driving him to, to the airport, whatever it is. I mean, you're too fast, too slow. All right, the whole, his coffee's sitting there. We can't drive where it would spill. And then, in every time you would always, you'd be passed somewhere and he'd say, hey, what did that sign say behind us that we just passed? And like, well, you mean you're not paying attention? I mean, it was a total, bus session the whole time, with him as a GA. But I'll tell you this, he treated us well as GAs. He was hard on us, and I learned a lot of lessons. What's interesting? You brought that up. He coached at Syracuse. Then I get to Alabama, and we're going through our policy books, the player policy manuals and coach policy manuals, and a lot of I'm like, this is the exact same. What's going on? Well, Coach Saban was at Syracuse as well, so there was a lot of carryover. And I guess both of them must have been with Coach McPherson at the time.
Had to be. Nick Saban was not at Syracuse for long. But
No,
I think
he wasn't.
he and O'Leary did overlap for at least a year.
It was like mid to late 70s. I know Coach Saban was, and Coach O'Leary was early 80s. But it was there's just so many similarities in both of those programs.
Yeah. And
you have to trace it back to some of the time there.
It's funny to kind of trace that lineage back and all the different branches of a coaching tree. You had a lot of standouts. We had mentioned Kyle Efer defensively for his 13 tackles, a career high against Georgia State. The team defensive player of the game versus the Panthers was their defensive tackle, Jordan Vandenberg. What did he do that popped on the film in his play versus Georgia State?
And that's exactly it. It's nothing statistically. It's nothing that's going to show up that's going to, the glitz and the glamour. It's the dirty work. It's the way he played the game. I mean, he basically lined up, and for ever how many plays he was in the game, it was an absolute street fight every play. And when unselfish guys like that play at the line of scrimmage, it allows guys like Kyle to be able to make those tackles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so certainly you can tip your cap to Jordan and some of the others in that line for holding their gaps.
JJ.
What's that?
JJ,
okay. Does he still have a trace of his South African accent? He was born in Johannesburg, moved with his family to Metro Atlanta and Lilburn when he was, I think, 10 years old, maybe early middle school.
He does at times. He's kind of a chameleon.
A situational accent.
I like that.
Okay,
that's a good one.
Sounds
really
good.
I'm going to write that down.
Well, he speaks the language of the defense well so far. Two other guys I want to ask you about defensively. Rodney Shelley had 2 TFLs against Georgia State. Then we've seen a lot of Omar Daniels in the opening 2 games or nickelback. He had 2 tackles, a pass breakup versus Georgia State. What are your thoughts on their play so far, knowing that they may be in the crosshairs a little more often versus Syracuse in that passing game?
Yeah, Omar and Rodney are both playing nickel. Omar plays nickel as well as safety, and Rodney plays nickel as well as corner. To be able to get multiple guys back there, playing different times, different spots, get more guys experience. It helps with some of the sub packages that we have with multiple DBs on the field on third down. Then, those guys have been good players, and Rodney had a hamstring in the summer a little bit that kept him from progressing through the end of summer training and the first week of camp. And ever since he's been back, man, he's really developing into a solid football player. And I'm just waiting on punt return for him to get an opportunity to really take one, because I think he has a chance to be a really dynamic return guy for us as well.
He had a pretty good return where he stuck his foot in the ground and got you some yards back on a Georgia State punt. Kevin Harris crashed your press conference today, but he will also be one of your captains for the Syracuse game. Obviously, you have a lot of fondness, and the feeling is mutual with Kevin Harris II in his accidental cameo at your press conference today.
So when I was walking out of the office, Kevin was walking out at the same time. Zeke was walking out. I was walking out with Zeke talking, and then Kevin walks out the other door. And he yells, "Coach, I'm sorry." I was like, "For what?" He goes, "Crashing the press conference. I just meant to say that go Jackets." I was like, "Kevin, I loved it. That's what's important. I think it's really important that people see truly who our players are. When they get up and do a press conference, it's very almost rehearsed, and but to see a guy like Kevin walk in and do that, I mean, football players, the thing about it that's different, they wear a helmet. People don't really truly see who they are all the time, and to have a moment like that where Kevin's able to come in and truly and be who he is and who I know him as and who we all know him as every single day, the energy he brings, the positivity that he brings, how hard he plays. I thought it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, you got a locker room full of really, really great personalities. We do try to give a glimpse into that with our pregame interview every week. Malik Rutherford, another one of those guys overflowing with energy and personality. He'll be our pregame guest on the Ramblin' Wreck kickoff show this Saturday, and then on to Tommy's Leather between your number 23 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and the Syracuse Orange this Saturday on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. We are live at New Round Brewing Company, Atlanta's favorite restaurant and brewery, and we'll have more of the Brent Key Coaches Show driven by Hyundai after this. It's away from Tommy's Leather, less than that, your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets versus the Syracuse Orange. Tech football is brought to you by Hyundai. Hyundai and Georgia Tech together in tech, innovation, and progress with a new EV plant in Georgia. Hyundai looks forward to growing ties with the Institute and the community. Together, we're building the future of technology right here in Georgia. Hyundai and Georgia Tech. It's our journey along with Brent Key. I'm Andy Demetra. Great to be with you tonight. Notice you added a new bracelet to the collection since we last saw you and talked with you.
Yeah. My daughter Harper makes these bracelets. Several guys on the team have them, several players on the team. She gave me one before the game on Saturday. So it has a little abbreviation on it, UATW, which is a internal thing for our team. And she put it on the bracelet, and it was awesome to wear it on the game on Saturday.
That's great. She's got to see that on your wrist on game day as well.
Oh yeah, she does. She's awesome. She makes these bracelets, and I think now several of the players have them. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, she's got her favorites for sure.
How much does she charge to the players?
Not near enough.
I was going to say
not near enough.
She could be making a mint.
I know, she needs to start supporting us and helping us.
We need to get her enrolled in Scheller so she can learn some of the.
So she actually got her she's in kindergarten, but she got her test scores back and made the 95th, 95 percentile, whatever it is, percentile on it. So it's good to see that she got my wife Danielle's genes.
You took that right out of my mouth. Well, she has to be proud of her daddy. 2-0 and number 23 in the country. Haynes King only had one game all last year in which he didn't throw a touchdown pass. He led the ACC in passing touchdowns. Didn't throw one against Florida State, so you knew Haynes would be due, and he finally got that checked off on Saturday versus Georgia State. His target was Avery Boyd, who now has 5 catches, 41 yards, and that touchdown this year. It was so fun to see the eruption on the sidelines and the way that they swarmed Avery following that touchdown where He just decided to plow over a few defenders on his way to the end zone. He's somebody who accepted that position switch from wide receiver to tight end in the offseason for his senior year, but it seems like he's really carved a niche for himself, especially with Brett Sider out. What has allowed Avery to come in and look so comfortable at that new position?
Well, Haynes did get his new bracelet from Harper last week. So that was
that's probably why. You needed
right.
the bracelet.
It is.
Yeah,
and,
get that touchdown.
I think we might get Avery one now. But Avery is he's a guy that's been in the program a long time and has really paid his dues, has stuck with it, believed in the process, and really he's settled into a spot right now that is really perfect for him. I mean, he's got size, he's got speed, and to see him get that touchdown and just to see his reaction afterwards, it was comical to see. That he almost didn't know what to do, but the guys on the sideline. If you want to see how people are viewed in the locker room, watch the way people react when they do something well, and then that was very evident with Avery on Saturday. He's a big, fast, strong dude that he's moving when he catches that ball now.
He wears that uniform like a crop top as well. He's got that thing all the way rolled up.
I have not noticed.
Have not noticed?
No.
Well, if you had abs like Avery Boyd, I'm sure you might consider that too. Chris Mooneyham was on the sidelines near that celebration from Avery Boyd. I'm glad he's all in one piece there because that's a whole mass of people that were getting ready to engulf your tight end in celebration. New to college football this year, and maybe some fans knew about it entering the year, maybe not, but at the end of the second quarter, end of the fourth quarter, similar to the NFL, it's the 2-minute break. They don't want us calling it a warning, so we have to go play along and call it a 2-minute break. How has that changed your late half management? How much was that an off-season topic of discussion for you and your staff?
Well, it was more than a topic of discussion. It was a topic of of repetition. First, it's to dig in and find out all the things about it. How people in the NFL use it. Obviously, we have experience of people that have coached and played in the NFL. But what makes the most sense for us? What makes the most sense for Georgia Tech? I think we have a really good plan for what we're doing with it, how we're using it. They said y'all call it the 2-minute break. So they
I don't know who made those mandates.
So we have to call it the 2-minute timeout.
Timeout break.
Yeah. So
just no warning. Yeah.
I think we have a good plan, and I'll just leave it at that because, as the first half was winding down, we were able to save our timeouts and have those and manage the clock to the point where we didn't leave any time really for them to be able to execute anything.
And you were able to get that touchdown run from Haynes King at the end of the second quarter. Also on Saturday, we saw the debut of your freshman, Anthony Carey. Did some nice work for you late. 4 carries, 41 yards. His upside, the freshman from Tampa. Scooter with an A, not an ER.
With an A. It's not Scooter.
As we did point out on the broadcast on Saturday. Yep.
What a good kid. I mean, just very eager to learn, very hungry. Has matured so much in the short time he's been with us, to the point where to get him in the game, and then it's one thing to mature to the point to be trusted to get in the game, but then to get in the game and have production the way he did, it just builds more confidence in the coaching staff and in us and myself to continue to do the same.
Your offensive line kept another clean pocket, no sacks allowed. Jordan Brown has started to settle in at left tackle. He's getting reps there with Corey Robinson. I know you're a tough grader on offensive linemen. Nobody would expect anything less, but Jordan, the guy who was never 100% last year after transferring in from Charlotte, seems healthy, seems to have really found his spot on the left side. What are some of the tangibles but also the intangibles that can make Jordan Brown a factor?
Yeah, I mean, he does his job, and throughout the course of the entire preseason camp, and really we started really seeing it at the end of spring ball. He comes into spring, and he'd been at guard, bumps out to tackle, and then he's in there, and you're looking at it and you're going, well, I mean, you never talk about him, and so then we go into the summer, we keep developing, keep working with him. I think Jeep's done a good job of really developing him, and now Jordan doesn't say a word. He is not a talkative young man.
Well, that's why you have Jordan Williams to balance it out.
Yeah. I mean, they meet for a common person, but he just. And then we go through the entire preseason camp, and Corey obviously was banged up, and you kept watching practice, you kept watching scrimmages, and you never really mentioned his name. All right, so that's a really good thing for an offensive lineman, and he's not going to draw attention to himself. He's just going to work to do his job. I thought he got better as the game went on in the run game. I thought he did a good job in pass protection. Has a lot of things like all the other guys we have to continue to improve on, and we worked really hard this week to improve on those things.
I know you said that possessions were limited for most of that first half, but until that final drive, you only had 8 rushing yards, which may have been surprising to fans after seeing the work you did against Florida State. But then what loosened it up on that final possession? You went from literally 8 rushing yards to 100 on that drive alone and route to the touchdown.
So, when you go back, you don't realize those things until, as the head coach, you sit down before your press conference and you're going through the stats. And, Mike had told me those things. Well, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, how is that? Like, I never would have guessed that in a million years, right? And, you start off a drive on the -1, so you're trying to push it off the goal line when you get a yard gain, a 2-yard gain. Then we threw it a couple of times, and then had another just kind of run, and then they get the ball. Well, then the next drive is a short field area, right? So just kind of the 3 drives leading up to it before, we were not productive in the run game. And you can say, well, it was because of this, because of that. At the end of the day, right, I don't care what the situation is that we're in. All right, our job is to produce and be productive and be efficient in everything we do. So I thought we got a feel for the game. I thought Buster did a good job of really making his adjustments that he needed to make. Jeep did a good job of making adjustments on the sideline. You're talking about an opponent with a new head coach with no game film. So we didn't really know what they were going to be, and some of it is getting used to it, and some of it is the players being able to settle into what they have to do as well.
And eventually we're able to get things loosened up, and lo and behold, by night's end, nearly 500 yards of offense in the 35-12 win over Georgia State, which set the table for a ranking this week. Number 23 in the AP, Georgia Tech's first ranking since September of 2015. But that saw a window dressed into the Yellow Jackets. They know they got a job to do this Saturday as they take on Syracuse at the JMA Wireless Dome. Coming up, we'll dive into a preview of the Orange, what Coach Key and the staff saw on film from Syracuse and its season-opening win versus Ohio. A couple of last wrap-ups of the Georgia State game, much more. Stay with us. We are live tonight from New Round Brewing on the East Side Beltline, the Brent Key Coaches Show, brought to you by Aero Exterminators. Going beyond the call. We'll have more after this on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. Ways to stay connected. Georgia Power, the official energy sponsor of Georgia Tech Athletics. Power on Georgia. It's another Thursday night, which means another Brent Key Coaches Show live on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. Big thanks to our friends here at New Realm Brewing Company, 550 Somerset Terrace Northeast on the East Side Beltline. Originally, we were going to do the first 2 Brent Key Coaches shows live, but boy, when you win both games and now you're ranked and we had great turnouts, both of our previous shows, we got to keep a good thing going. So we do want to thank New Realm for opening their doors to us, not just tonight, but we're going to be here every Thursday night during game week throughout the fall as the new live host of the Brent Key Coaches Show. So you can raise a glass to the folks here at New Realm for their hospitality, Coach.
I'm glad that all those positives have happened the first couple of weeks, but being here, this doesn't have anything to do with that. Being here is just because I love this place. You love this place. New Realm's it's a great restaurant. It's a great place to be. And this is not a PR thing. This is just personally my personal opinion. So I love the place, the deck up top. I don't know if there's a better place in Atlanta to sit and do some good people watching.
Now it looks awesome, especially now that the humidity finally broke. Didn't think that would ever happen again, but...
Well, now that you said that, just wait.
We'll be indoors on Saturday. Won't have to worry too much about the humidity climbing.
I think it's still going to be 40%.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. No, it's as soon as you say that, though, it'll be 80% humidity and sweat.
We had snow flurries on September 26th. One year I was up there.
I was driving home last night, and I was thinking about, difference in weather, north and south. And I can remember Halloweens in the south where it's been below freezing. And I can remember Halloweens in the south where it's been so hot you can't even wear a costume.
I remember having Halloweens in the Midwest where you had to wear your snowsuit underneath your costume.
The whole idea of shoveling snow off your driveway, and it's a foreign thing for myself.
Well, that's why they say nobody retires up north. But you will be headed there nonetheless this Saturday to take on the Syracuse Orange, like Coach Key had alluded to. New head coach this year in Fran Brown, and they're off to a 1-0 start, 38-22 over the Ohio Bobcats. They feature Kyle McCord, who's an Ohio State transfer. Actually started 12 games for the Buckeyes last year and made an impressive debut at his new home. 354 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. What were his strengths as you evaluated him from that game last Saturday that may have been a continuation of what you saw from him on film over the summer, looking at his tape from Ohio State?
He's a good quarterback. I mean, they go through him. He can make every throw on the field. He has elite arm talent. He's got good guys on the perimeter to get the ball to. I mean, their skill is as top-notch quality is anybody in the league and in one of the higher levels in a lot of the country. I mean, the running back, what a good running back he is. And then they've got skill guys, but they're big skill guys. Yeah. They got length. They're tall. They have 2 really big tight ends. One that's a really good blocker. One that's almost a receiver playing the spot. A slot receiver who's got mad skills and size to him as well. So. It's going to be a huge challenge for us, a huge challenge.
Yeah, they were so depleted by injury toward the end of last season when you met them, and a lot of those guys who were unavailable are back and healthy, and they certainly contributed to that win on Saturday. Trinelius Tatum had 6 more tackles versus Georgia State. I know you've been so pleased with Tren, his growth, being shepherded along by Kyle Eford. Kyle gets understandably a lot of the spotlight for his tackles total. You guys have played 2 games. Most people nationally have only played 1, but somebody's got to lead the nation in tackles. And right now that's Kyle with 23, but you can't neglect the job that Trinelius has done so far. What kind of growth have you seen from him to allow him to have a productive start? Just overall, the growth of Trinelius as a person to make this a really good start to his senior year.
Yeah, I'm a believer in that. Plays and schemes, they are personnel driven. I mean, for someone to come in and say, hey, this is the scheme we're going to run, and it doesn't fit the personnel you have, really makes no sense. Right? We don't allow that to happen. That's not going to happen. So to be able to put our players in a position to make plays. And I think Tooch does a good job of recognizing that, of understanding that, of seeing the skill set of certain players and allowing them to do what they do best. So, whereas in the past you might look at Trent as the guy that can, the space guy that can run and make plays, and I think both those guys now are doing it. And at the same time, Trent is making tackles in the box and getting down and dirty in that work. And Kyle, you see running sideline to sideline. So, credit to both those guys, but also the coaching that they're receiving.
Part of that defense that has declared itself the Shark Crew. I think it was Lamiles Brooks who came up with that nickname. You might have seen them flashing the fin over their helmet in front of third downs. I don't think I've asked you yet your thoughts on the Shark Crew nickname.
I don't know anything about that.
Really? Okay. You didn't notice they were playing the first couple of notes of the Jaws theme at Bobby Don in front of those third downs?
Honestly, I didn't notice
Then
that.
You definitely don't want to know what Lamiles has asked me to call him.
No, don't.
Because he was the one who came up with the nickname.
Yeah, let's not.
I can't tease
I don't know.
it.
I don't know. I mean, Miles might say that.
Okay.
But I have a feeling it may or may not have been Ben Hollerback.
What, Ben Hollerback?
Maybe.
As the Shark CEO?
I don't know.
That's what Lamiles now considers himself.
Well, I don't know. Let's let's worry about, look, here's the thing. I challenge our guys every single day to be loose, have fun, enjoy playing, but be the absolutely most disciplined football team that there is, right? And to challenge 18 to 22-year-old kids to be loose and have fun, but yet be disciplined.
That's got to be a tricky balancing act.
It is, and if you don't work that way from the beginning of the year until now to have that type of mentality, you're not going to have it. You can't do it. So, but it's a fun game, and guys should reserve the right to have fun. I mean, you hear Coach Belichick talk about it that he saw a guy score and they didn't have any reaction to it. And he said, we work way too hard not to have fun when you score. So there's a line you don't cross, and we talk about that. But I want these guys to enjoy and enjoy the fruits of their labors.
Well, you talked about playing to your team's standard, playing to the identity that you've created. But you can still have personality within that identity and within those standards.
Yeah, I think you have to. Football's hard. Football is a hard game. It's a collision sport, and to be a good football player, a good football unit, a good football team, right, you have to work extremely hard and do things that most people don't want to do on a day-to-day basis, and they're uncommon, right? So to then allow them to have fun while they do it, I think just adds to the energy and the product that we work so hard to put on the field each week.
Before we close the book on Georgia State, we had noted Malik Rutherford's career night. We had noted 2 touchdowns, a touchdown rushing and a touchdown passing from Haynes King. Kyle Leifert, a career high in tackles. Any other unsung standouts where the box score doesn't begin to show their contribution? Any unsung guys perhaps from that Georgia State game that are worth a mention? We had mentioned JJ, Jordan Vandenberg.
Yeah, JJ I thought did a nice job. We mentioned Rodney. Caught me. So probably my favorite play of the entire game, I believe it was the opening kickoff. Was it the opening kickoff? All right, where we had a bust. We did, and our fold player didn't fold across, and it opened up wide. And Aiden Burr, full speed, running down the field as a kicker, goes absolutely full speed face to face into the returner, and really prevented a big play and allowed the other guys to come around. I thought that was a really big play in the game. It shows how much of a true football player that Aiden is. I thought of Montre Bradford. I mean, on kickoff cover, he's a young guy that we're really, really, really high on, and developing him, through special teams right now, and working with him. He had a really nice play on kickoff cover. There's so many of the guys that are unsung. I mean, the key to the whole thing, I thought this past week, our dietitian Aaron, who we gave staff member of the week for the game. You're talking about you go into a game that was 80 plus 85 degrees, and what was the humidity in the game? I don't know. It was high.
It was up there.
It was hot. It was sweaty. All right, and not to have anybody leave the game with a cramp. All right, just shows that I thought we talked about it all week last week, of keeping them hydrated, making sure they started their hydration process early in the week. I thought she did a really good job, and her staff of making sure our guys could we had player availability.
Aaron Wesolowski, your dietitian, team nutritionist, she certainly contributed to that win as well against Georgia State. One final timeout, and then on to Syracuse this Saturday. What it will take to get a win over the Orange and certify that new number 23 ranking with an ACC road opening win. We'll break it down with head coach Brent Key in just a moment. Stay with us at DigiGames. High noon, Tommy Leather inside the JMA Wireless Dome this Saturday as your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets face the Syracuse Orange, looking to move to 3-0 and 2-0 in the ACC. Let's tie a bow here on the opponent this Saturday, coach. They play a 4-2-5 defense. Their defensive coordinator, Elijah Robinson, was on staff with Tyler Santucci for a period at Texas A&M. Any similarities in their scheme or their approach defensively?
Very, very little. Okay. They're 4 down, as you said. When they have some situational times where they'll play a 3 down front, really a 3-2 structure, get an extra DB on the field. You play a little more. The coverage is a little different than what we do consistently. So, somewhat, but not enough to be able to say, hey, we know exactly what's going on. I mean, they've got their own flavor to it. I mean, Fran in the background he has as defensive football coach. So it'll be interesting to see in game 2 for them how they come out.
They're trying to clean up their tackling. They did allow quite a few rushing yards to Ohio. They'll be without their leading tackler from a season ago, an all-ACC linebacker in Marlo Wax. He suffered a right leg injury in that Ohio game. but you know they'll probably put a renewed emphasis on stopping the running game. Defensively, though, as you evaluated that film versus the Bobcats, what stood out? What do you think Syracuse derives some confidence from heading into Saturday?
Well, they won. I think that's the big thing. They won. They showed they faced some adversity at times. They were able to get stops when they needed. But at the same time, I mean, we're working on those same things too. Those are things that you want to say everybody in the country is, but I'm worried about Georgia Tech and Georgia Tech football and how we go out and execute. So we're working on a lot of those same things, which I'm sure they are as well. So I expect them to be an even better version of themselves come Saturday.
You told your guys prepare for a very physical game.
Oh yeah, very physical, extremely physical. That's what Fran wants his team to be, and I don't think there's a greater compliment to any football coach to say that their football team is taking on the identity of them, and I know that's what he wants. You see a change already just in one game of who they want to be and how they want to do things through him.
You, though, have shown last year the ability to subdue road crowds, Virginia and Miami. So what will it take from that mindset for your guys to go in and be able to be the team they need to be in order to get that win?
Well, we have to be a better version of ourselves than we were the week before. And that's the challenge we have each week with our team, right, is to improve individually, then collectively as a position, collectively as a unit, and collectively as a football team. So we're worried about ourselves, and that's the biggest challenge. It's hard to stay in the moment and be where your feet are every single day, and take care of your own business. But look, there's nothing external that's going to give us anything that we want, and our goals are only meant for us to be able to go out and get.
Well, let's see how it all shakes out this Saturday in Central New York. Your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and the Syracuse Orange, 10 o'clock, our network airtime in the Ramblin' Wreck kickoff show, and then kickoff noon on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. And on that, we'll wrap up this Thursday's edition of the Brent Key Show.